The word Lucifer is taken from Latin Vulgate, which translates as Lucifer, the biblical Hebrew word which occurs only once in the Hebrew Bible. Has been transliterated as Helel or Helel. Helel is a Hebrew word that can mean shiner, shining one, or well, son of the dawn. It is used only once in the Bible, in Isaiah 14:12, to taunt the king of Babylon. It may be related to Venus or Satan. I think this shows that Ishtar Gate is a representation of Babylon. Babylon was an ancient city located on the lower Euphrates River in southern Mesopotamia within modern-day Hila, Iraq, about 85 kilometers south of modern-day Baghdad. Other names or alternative names for Babylon, as we can see here. In Arabic, it's Babel. In Akkadian, Babylon. Imperial, Aramic, Babel. Old Persian, Babaru. Ancient Greek, Babylon. Hebrew, Elamite, Babili. Both the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and Walls of Babylon were ranked among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, with the former allegedly existing between approximately 600 BC and AD 100. It has been estimated that Babylon was the largest city in the world. It was perhaps the first city to reach a population above 200,000. UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, is a specialized agency of the United Nations with the aim of promoting world peace and security through international cooperation in education, arts, sciences, and culture. No wonder birds of a feather flock together. UNESCO inscribed Babylon as a World Heritage Site in 2019. The spelling Babylon is the Latin representation of Koine Greek Babylon, derived from the native Akkadian Gate of the Gods. The worship of Baal was established in Babylon in the famous Tower of Babel, the uppermost room of which served at the same time as an observatory and as the repository of a collection of astronomical observations. Baal was the supreme god of Canaan and Phoenicia, whose worship infiltrated Jewish religious life during the Judges and became popular in Israel during Arab's reign. And obviously, we're not talking about modern Israel, we're talking about ancient Israel. Baal symbolizes ancient Israel's religious identity, loyalty, and struggles, and evolving conceptions of monotheism. Theologically, Baal became the paradigmatic false god, the primary rival to Yahweh, who embodied everything that threatened Israel's covenant faithfulness. The Bible frequently uses Baal as shorthand for idolatry in general. Baal Teshuvah in Judaism, a Baal Teshuvah is a Jew who adopts some form of traditional religious observance after having previously followed a secular lifestyle or a less form of Judaism. The Baal Teshuvah movement is a description of the return of secular Jews to religious Judaism. The term is used to refer to a worldwide phenomenon among Jewish people. So Baal was a representation of the ancient Israelites moving away from God. And in modern Israel, Baal is a representation of Jews coming from a secular lifestyle, adopting some form of traditional religious observance of Judaism. It's an inversion. Baal Teshuvah movement is a description of the return of the secular. The phrase Baal Teshuvah generally refers to a Jew who, from a non-Orthodox background, who becomes religiously observant in an Orthodox fashion. However, the concept can also encompass Orthodox-leaning Jews who become stricter in their observance. The Baal Teshuvah movement began to appear as an identifiable movement in the United States in the 1960s, as a growing number of young Jews raised in non-religious homes in the United States started to develop a strong interest in becoming a part of observant Judaism. Many of these people, in contrast to sociological expectations, became attracted to observant Judaism within Orthodoxy. The Baal Teshuvah movement was also inspired by the 60s and 70s counterculture, especially the counterculture of the 1960s and the hippie movement. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach tried to channel the counterculture and its music into a Jewish direction through his music and teachings. The Woodstock Festival, the drug subculture, the new interest in Eastern religions. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan tried to channel that interest into a Jewish direction through his writings and the spirit of youth rebellion that pervaded U.S. high schools and college campuses. Whereas early Baal Teshuvah trends were partly related to the prevailing anti-establishment atmosphere of the 1960s, an increase in Jewish pride in the wake of Israel's victory in 1967 Six-Day War fueled and gave momentum to the beginnings of the Baal Teshuvah movement. Baal Shem Tov, Israel Ben Eliezer was a Jewish mystic and healer regarded as the founder of Hasidic Judaism. A Baal Shem Tov is a master of the good name, that is, one able to work miracles using the secret name of God. Other sources explain his sobriquet as arising from a reputation of being a saintly or superior Baal Shem, miracle worker. Hence, he was given the nickname Baal Shem Tov. Biographical information about the Baal Shem Tov comes from contemporary documents from the Polish Lithuanian Commonwealth and the legends about his life and behavior collected in the Praise of Bisht. A central tenet of the teachings associated with Baal Shem Tov is Devigut, a direct connection with the divine, which is infused in every human activity in every waking hour. Prayer is of supreme importance, along with the mystical significance of the Hebrew letters and words. That can mean a basic admiration or worship for numerology, which is of the occult, and a direct connection with the divine. That could represent or resemble, that could mean almost the same thing or be of the same ideology of Aleister Crowley, the great work. The macro conjoining with the micro, the finite conjoining with the infinite, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the soul, so the universe. basically the Tower of Babel, the worship of Baal. You know how they built in Babylon, they tried to build the Tower of Babel to reach the heavens and to challenge the authority of God, of the God of the Bible. Now, let's look at quotes from Baal Shem Tov. The ideal of man is to be revelation himself, clearly to recognize himself as a manifestation of God. That's Babylonian philosophy, Luciferian philosophy. Helel, Lucifer. That's a philosophical way of looking at the Tower of Babel. In your mind, you equate yourself to God, and the Tower of Babel was a representation of the snake, of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, him wanting to be like God. You know, his infamous lie told in the Garden of Eden, ye shall be as gods. The central aspect of worship is the feeling of being at one with God. Everything above and below is one unity. The Baphomet symbolizes that too. You know, in the Satanic Temple, he's pointing up, and the other hand is pointing down. It goes back to that occult saying, as above, so below, as within, so without, as the soul, so the universe. There's also a New Living Translation of the Bible. I think it's the New Living Translation, where in the Lord's Prayer for the Our Father, instead of saying on earth as it is in heaven, it says as above and so below. So that can be occult indoctrination, that can be occult invasion, hijacking the Bible. If it hasn't already done that, you know, the New Age movement, the law of attraction, all this pseudoscience stuff uses a lot of verses from the Bible, like, you know, they just take verses from the Bible and they use it to mean their own thing, to worship the subconscious mind, or to talk about the power, the so-called power of your mind, and that through the elevation of your mind, through your thoughts, you can become anything you want because you are God. If you manifest, you can manifest it with your mind and all this other stuff. Whereas the Bible clearly states that you want to place your trust and your faith in God. The Baha'i faith and Babel seem very synonymous, very similar. Abdu'l-Baha encouraged the adoption of universal language, saying that it would help create the conditions for world unity. The mutual language will become the mightiest means toward universal progress, for it will cement the East and the West. The Baha'i answer to Babel by the Yale globalist. Since the Baha'i faith first emerged in 1844 in Shiraz, Iran, followers have been flocking to this holy site, inspired by a call for social, moral, and spiritual progress on a global level. The Baha'i faith is a religion in the 19th century that teaches the essential worth of all religions and the unity of all people. And back to Ishtar. The Babylonian gate of Ishtar. Ishtar is considered a member of the special class of Mesopotamian gods called the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki, class of gods within the ancient Mesopotamian pantheon. The precise meaning of the term princely seed in Sumerian remains ill-defined, as the number of these gods, their names, and their functions vary according to the limited historical texts scholars have recovered. The Sumerian myth, Enki, and the world order suggests that one of their main functions in early mythology was to decide the fates of human beings. They were initially associated with the heavens, but over time both literary and administrative texts reflected an increased role for the Anunnaki in earthly affairs. However, other texts seem to place the Anunnaki as gods of the underworld. This is the case in the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which the Anunnaki are described as judges of the dead. Ishtar, just like Lucifer, is associated with the planet Venus. The Akkadian Ishtar is also to a great extent an astral deity associated with the planet Venus. In later myth, she was known as the Queen of the Universe, taking on the powers of An, Enlil, and Enki. Enki, that is where we get Enki and the world order from.